Hello, my name is Wolf, and this is a note from the probability fields. One human being's perspectives and thoughts on what it's like to live through these days and times on the planet right now. Today is March 27th, 2022, and our topic of discussion is going to be how do we negotiate an end to the war in Ukraine? First, I want to say I agree with Joe's comment, President Biden's comment in Poland yesterday that Vladimir Putin is unfit to be a leader of any country and should not be leading the Russian people. I agree also with President Zelensky in Ukraine. We need to not delay, not just talk, but do give them the weaponry they've asked for, the things they need to provide an effective defense and push those invaders out of Ukraine. Give them the planes, give them the anti-aircraft batteries, give them artillery, give them tanks, give them all of it as soon as possible and let them do the work. So, our topic, negotiating with Putin. Should we negotiate with Putin for a closure to this war? I say no, not in the traditional sense. And we'll talk about the reasons why. First off, look at his past behavior in other areas, other countries, Chechnya, Georgia, Moldova, the Crimea. He would tell us one thing and do absolutely another. So further informing my viewpoint about not negotiating in a traditional sense with Mr. Putin, in my research about this, I ran across a paper produced by St. John's University College of St. Benedict. And it is a paper produced by the Unit for the Study of Personality and Politics. It's entitled The Political Personality of Russian Federation President Vladimir Putin. It's got some pretty relevant and in-depth analysis of Mr. Putin's personality type, especially in the realm, associating in the realm of politics. I recommend it as pretty good reading for people that are interested. I'll put the information up in the notes with this video, so if you want to read the whole document, it's almost 40 pages. I'll just highlight a few elements right now relevant to our conversation. In the abstract, it states Putin's profile constitutes a composite personality type aptly described as an expansionist, hostile enforcer. Putin's major personality-based strengths in a political role are his commanding demeanor and confident assertiveness. His major personality-based shortcomings are his uncompromising intransigence, lack of empathy and congeniality, and cognitive inflexibility. A little further in, we have an evaluation of his personality patterns, and 70% of those patterns are locked up in three defined areas. Number one, a dominant asserting pattern, controlling, aggressive, and sadistic. That rating on a 100-point scale, 26.7. Second is ambitious, confident, self-serving, exploitative, and narcissistic. 23.3 points on that scale. And number 6 on the scale, but number 3 as far as rating, conscientious, respectful, dutiful, obsessive, compulsive. So those three make up 70%. Those behavior patterns, personality patterns, make up 70% of Mr. Putin's psychology in terms of politics. Personally, an ambitious, dominant, obsessive, compulsive who is sadistic doesn't sound like the kind of person I would want to run my country. And in conclusion, in the conclusion part of this report, in terms of foreign policy role orientation, the high dominance introvert facet of Putin's personality parallels expansionists like Adolf Hitler, Saddam Hussein. They see the world as being divided into us and them, based on a belief system in which conflict is viewed as inherent in the international system. He views war as a natural occurrence in political structure. Personal political style is characterized by a wariness of others' motives, a controlling interpersonal orientation, resulting in a foreign policy focused on issues of security and status. He's not averse to using the enemy as a scapegoat, and his rhetoric, often may be hostile in tone. We've already seen that, even in him, the way he's talked about what we're doing in Ukraine to give him cover for what he's doing in Ukraine. He possesses a high degree, evident to varying degrees in Putin's personality profile is a high degree of motivation, strong nationalism, unwavering belief in one's ability to control events, supreme self-confidence, distrust of others, and a very goal-oriented, directed level of task orientation. Mr. Putin believes the world is divided between his Russia and the West, often using the West, or democracy, as a scapegoat for his problems. Rising through the KGB and Russia's political elite, he has entwined himself in the history of Russia, typical of narcissistic leaders and their exalted self-concept and dreams of glory. I mean, Putin has already hinted that he expects to reconstitute Imperial Russia. He views his destiny and that of the Russian state as one and the same. Putin is Russia, Russia is Putin. He displays a desire for control and has a deeply entrenched feeling of resentment toward the West. His world is a zero-sum game in which any gains by the West, be they domestic or by any domestic opponents, they are considered mortal threats to his power. And we've already seen how he treats rivals in Russia. He's poisoned several. One guy, just besides being poisoned, he survived, and now he's in prison for a number of years. I forget the number of years. But going back to Putin is Russia, Russia is Putin. So he physically and emotionally identifies with being Russia. Russia is part of him. He is part of Russia. So he sees these breakaway, quote unquote, what he defines as breakaway republics like Ukraine and the others, Georgia, etc., as parts of himself that he has lost and he is trying to recover. So in that sense, that and his built-in distrust, the fact that he and his negotiators repeatedly lie to us straight up, right to our face, say they're going to do one thing and then do another. We have humanitarian corridors so people can leave. What do? As soon as the people start to leave, they bomb them. That is not good faith negotiation. So I don't see that we can continue down that path. It makes no sense for us to sit and talk while he slaughters the population of Ukraine and destroys the infrastructure. It makes absolutely no sense for us to do that. So back to our question, should we negotiate an end to this conflict with Mr. Putin? And I say no, not in the traditional way. His past behavior and the psychoval clearly state that he is a bad faith negotiator. He's not interested in anything that we have to say about it. It's all about him and his dreams of reconstituting Imperial Russia. So we need to find a way to bring this conflict to an end clearly and decisively in a way that Mr. Putin will understand and the other autocratic leaders that are watching this around the world will understand that we are not going to tolerate this kind of expansionist behavior from anybody, whoever you are. North Korea, China, you name it. It will not stand. And we can't let this stand in Ukraine. We really cannot. If your brother or sister, or both, were walking down the street and they were attacked in front of you, what would you do? Would you wait until the attack was over and they were laying on the ground and then you would decide what you were going to do about it? Or would you intercede and stop the attack? Well, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine are being attacked, and if we don't intercede, they will die on the ground. So I propose this as a methodology, a negotiating tactic of sorts. We go to the Russian military in the field, and we gather our partners together first. Okay, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We gather our partners together, but the U.S. could do it alone if we needed to. We go to our partners and say, look, we need to end this. And it may take actual military intervention, not in Russia, but in Ukraine. We may, in fact, have to intercede in a physical way. We're going to try a last-ditch negotiation. And if that doesn't work, the only way we can end this is boots on the ground. So we need to think about it. Maybe some. We also certainly have the capability to end the Russian advance and their military without people present on the ground. So we go to the military leaders of the Russian army and we say, look, you and your men, and we do have something in our favor. Let me just pause here for a second. We do have something in our favor. We know that the Russian military doesn't have their heart in it. We know there's not overwhelming support in Russia for this activity. Why would there be 15,000 people already in jail for protesting the war and thousands leaving Russia because of the war? And if, in fact, people were able to actually get the news of what's going on in Ukraine, those numbers would be higher. I don't think there's overwhelming support for this war, not even within the military. So we go to the military, the generals, or whoever's left in charge, since several of their generals have been eliminated already, and say, okay, we're united in we're going to put an end to this conflict, and so you have an option. Either you pack up your toys and go home, or you surrender, or you just go home, leave your stuff here, and we'll take care of it, but you need to go. You have 24 hours, because, they're just people. We don't want to kill any more people than we have to. So you have 24 hours to decide, and then you have 48 hours after that to go. If you decide in the negative, you will be dust. You, your equipment, everything. You will not leave alive. It'll be over. But it'll be over. So it's just straight up. And if you, during that 24 hours, you need to not attack Ukraine. You need to take that 24 hours. We're going to have a ceasefire for 24 hours. If you violate that ceasefire, you will be dust. And then after you say, and if in the end of that ceasefire, end of that 24 hours, you say, okay, we're going, then you need to go. Because if you don't, if you think you're going to do a little fake there and say, oh, we're going to leave so everybody relaxes, and then you attack again, you will be dust. That's it. That's your option. That's our negotiation. Take it or leave it. You stay and you're dust, or you go and you live. And Ukraine is safe once again. So I don't know if that's realistic, but I think it's plausible. And it certainly is worth a try. And I really don't think, given that this is something that Putin can relate to in his own capacity, in emotionally and mentally, I don't think we're risking anything more than if we allow this to continue. Because either way, if we either end it now or we let it go on and then it goes on and on and on. And maybe even then escalates of its own accord. So I don't think we're risking any more either way. Actually, if we don't stop it, we are risking more. We're risking more innocent people being killed and more destruction and more waste of resources and focus that should really be going to other areas of concern in the world besides war. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you again.